Hi there, I'm Michelle from A Tea Give Your Own, and welcome to another Motivational Monday. You can tell Jim is not here, and that's because we have some sad news. His father passed away this weekend, and Jim is down in Georgia right now helping his family, and I'm about to be down in Georgia helping his family. So, what I wanted to talk about today is something that we talked about almost a year and a half ago when my Uncle Joey passed away. And we talked about leaving a legacy and what it is that you leave behind. And I found a quote by Pericles that is perfectly suited for this particular topic. What you leave behind is not what is engraved in a stone mountain, but what is woven into the lives of others. And I thought that is the perfect quote to sum up the life of my father-in-law. He had given a lot of his time and energy into the US Army. He served for over 20 years before he retired, and then he went back to work for the Department of Defense and served for another 20 years. And so he was the epitome of duty, honor, country. And he knew that what he was doing was going to have a lasting effect, not only while he was there, but for many people who would come up the ranks behind him. And so, uh, looking back at what he did and looking back at the legacy that he has left, you can see it in his family. You can see it in not just his children, but also in his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren. Um, we have members of our family that went on to serve in the National Guard, in the Navy, in the Air Force Guard. We have members of our family who are currently serving in the Army. We have members of our family who truly understand what it means to be devoted to our country and to want to have that strong sense of defense and that strong uh, line that protects our country from all the evildoers that are out there. So that's part of the legacy that my father-in-law created. The other was a much softer side, and that was the sense of family. He was a huge family man who dearly loved his family. I remember when Jim and I were dating, and I remember he was very welcoming of me. And that's because he knew that I made his son happy, but he also knew that I would be a good addition to the family itself. And I was very grateful for having him as a father-in-law. He was one of the most welcoming people. He would always lend a hand. He was very generous with his time. He was very generous with his energy. He would help anyone who asked for it. And as a result of being that person, that type of leader, that role model, his children and his grandchildren and even his great-grandchildren are very similar to that in the fact that they come together as a strong family. They have very strong family bonds. When I look at other families out there, there's a lot of people that will tell you that their family puts the fun in dysfunctional. And there's a lot of families out there where that is very true. With my father-in-law, he wanted a family that was strong and was enduring and could go through tough times together. Since he was in the Army, he knew, it was gonna be move after move after move, and not only here in the United States, but in different countries, and so he knew he had to have a very strong family unit who would depend on each other, who were loyal to one another, who could help one another out through the good times and the bad, and that's what he created. He created that sense of loyalty, that strength that is still there today and will endure for many years to come because his children and his grandchildren and his great grandchildren recognize how important that is. And they recognize those qualities and those values are not only what was important to him, but what's important to them. And as a result, he has left a family who has come together in times of joy and has come together in times of sorrow, but they always come together. And that's the important part. And I think that is probably the greatest part of his legacy was that he wanted to make sure he had this strong family. And you can still see it. And I was very happy to join that family. Jim has one brother and two sisters. All four of my father-in-law's children are married, and all four of us who married into that family consider ourselves very fortunate to be a part of it because we can see how strong it is and we could see how they stick together. And I think there's something to be said about that in today's world. In today's society, you don't always have a very strong family bond. You don't have a lot of large families. I don't think 4 children is very large, but once they get married and they start having children of their own, and then their children start having children, it gets large quickly. Uh, but what you see is when people come together like that, and you have that strong bond that does not break. That's the legacy that he left. And what I've learned from it is it's never too late to forge those bonds. Like I said, when I came into that family, my family is not similar to Jim's family, not in the least. However, it was very different and it was very refreshing for me because I was welcomed into it and I was very happy to be a part of it. And what I learned from his family was watching them all come together, watching how they interact with one another, because you have some very different personalities in that family, and they all balance each other out. There's a whole lot of give and take. There's a whole lot of compromise. There's a whole lot of I'll do this for you and you'll do that for me going on in that family. And that's how they have become leaders in their own right. And that's how they've been able to go out into the world and do good things, is because they grew up learning how to do that. They grew up learning how to lead. And Jim's brother and sisters have those qualities and those traits because their father was a good leader. And they've passed those on to their own children. They've passed on those values and they've passed on those traits to their children so that their children understand how important leadership qualities are, and their children understand how important it is to come together. And sometimes you need to compromise and sometimes you need to stand up for what it is that you truly believe in. And because of that, my father-in-law has a legacy that will stand the test of time. And so what I want to ask of all of you, because I know you've got tons of stuff going on in your life. Today, we've got the eclipse going on. You've got you're into April now, and there's all kind of spring activities going on. Kids are in school, and they're itching to get out of school because the weather's finally nice, and there's a whole lot going on. But I want you to take a moment, and I want you to think about what kind of family you have. What have you built up with your family? Because there's still time to build a stronger family. Uh, the best time to have started was way back when, but the next best time to start is now. And so make sure you're building those strong bonds in your family. And then think about what's the legacy you want to leave behind? How do you want people to remember you? And is that legacy going to be lasting? Are you going to be able to um, point to what people do in future generations because of you? And that's something you need to think about. And when it comes to your business, when it comes to what you're doing in work, what kind of impact are you having on your customers? What kind of impact are you having on your community? Because the reality is, that's the legacy that you leave with your business. Is if you're a business owner or you're an entrepreneur, the business that you're building should have a positive impact on the community and the people that you serve. That's part of the reason why you do what you do. So, what's that impact? How are you affecting the people around you? Because that's the legacy that your business is going to have. So take some time this week and sit down and think about what is that legacy I want to leave for my family? What's that legacy I want to leave for my community? And then start. We've talked about, I think it was last week, we talked about how you need to get started. You can't get ready to get ready to get ready. You need to actually go and do. And you need to take action. You need to take those first steps. So once you figure out what it is that you want to do, go do it. And there is no better time than the present because, as Jim's family would tell you, tomorrow is not a guarantee. And unfortunately, right now they're going through the process of figuring out what tomorrow is going to look like now that uh, the head of their family is gone. And I'm sure it'll be slightly different because he is not there. However, because of the bonds they have and the strong values that they have, they're still together. And they're going to continue to move forward together with that strong presence. So think about what you want your legacy to be, and then start taking action to make sure that it is in place for you. All right. Next week, Jim should be back. We should be in Pennsylvania by next Monday, and we look forward to seeing you then.